Welcome to the third lecture that we are having in this session. Now over here we are actually going to start discussing a diode. So what we are going to do in this session is we're going to do the basic construction, the operation and the characteristics of a diode. So exam point of view, this is really important. This is generally a 5 mark to a 10 mark question. But from the point of view of the subject, it is extremely important for you to understand the construction, operation and characteristics of a diode. So when we say a PN junction diode, what we've already discussed is we have two types of semiconductor. We have semiconductor materials, which is divided into two types, intrinsic and extrinsic. Extrinsic semiconductors are created when we add impurities to them. When I add a group 5 impurity, what I get is a N-type semiconductor. In the N-type semiconductor, majority carriers are electrons and the minority carriers are holes. For a P-type semiconductor, majority carriers are holes and minority carriers are electrons. We have also discussed that when I get a p-type semiconductor and an n-type semiconductor together at one junction, what I will get is a PN junction diode. So if I had to draw a simple PN junction diode, I would draw something like this. This is a p-type semiconductor. This is an n-type semiconductor. I have brought them together. What I've got is a PN junction diode. My P side has high number of holes, so instead of drawing one that is so tiny, what I would do is I'll just increase the size of what I've drawn. So if I take this as my system, this is a p-type semiconductor, this is a n-type semiconductor, both are of almost the same size. P-type semiconductor has majority holes and minority number of electrons. N-type semiconductor has majority electrons and minority number of holes. So initially when this is my semiconductor and I have not added any external supply, this semiconductor is said to be unbiased since there is no battery applied. What is going to happen right now is, you can imagine one classroom where I have lot of benches and very few students, another classroom where I have many students and very few empty benches. So the law of nature is equilibrium. So what is going to happen is one electron will shift from here, come and sit on this hole. Now when one electron comes and sits on this hole, this is known as an electron hole recombination. Whenever this happens, this electron leaves behind something known as a positive ion and the hole leaves behind something known as a negative ion. So every time this keeps happening, that is every time one electron from here goes and recombines with a hole over here, I will continuously start getting positive ions on this side and negative ions on this side. Because of which, what you can imagine is there is a gate between the n-type semiconductor and the p-type semiconductor. And as these footprints are getting left behind, that is electrons leaving their positive ion footprints and holes leaving their negative ion footprints, this entire gate is now closed. Because this gate is closed, no more electron can go from the n-type to the p-type region. This gate which is closed consists of two things. First thing is positive ion, second thing is negative ions. Now both of these ions do not have any charge. Therefore, this region that is created over here is known as the depletion region. So depletion region is basically a region that is depleted of all type of charge carriers. Now if I look at this depletion region, it is negative here and positive here. So it looks something like this, like a battery, and this potential is known as the barrier potential. Now why is it known as the barrier potential? Because this is the potential that has to be overcome so that an electron can go from the n-type semiconductor to the p-type semiconductor. Therefore, this is known as the barrier potential. This barrier potential in silicon is somewhere around 0.6 volts and in germanium is somewhere around 0.2 volts. So this is the voltage that you have to overcome so that you can go from the n-type semiconductor to the p-type semiconductor and get some current. This is a better view of what I exactly said right now. N-type semiconductor has whole lot of electrons, p-type semiconductor has whole lot of holes. When I do not attach a battery N-type semiconductor leaves behind positive ions. P-type semiconductor, the holes leave behind negative ions every time that a recombination takes place. This region that is formed over here is known as the depletion region or the depletion layer. Okay. Now, this potential that is created on top is known as the barrier potential. This is what you exactly have to overcome. So now if I have to overcome this, I will have to add an battery over here. Now obviously when you have a battery, we already know every battery looks something like this. I have a negative side and a positive potential. So there will be two methods of adding this battery. I can add the negative to the N side or the negative to the P side. So suppose I add my battery like this. This is my PN junction. I already have a barrier potential that is created over here, and now I've added my battery such that the positive is towards the P and the negative is towards the N. So here I have negative and here I have positive bias. Initially I start from 0 volts. What happens? Right now nothing happens. What is the barrier potential of silicon? We already spoke about this. The barrier potential for silicon is 0.6 volts. So from 0 volts till 0.6 volts, this region is still there over here. So nothing is going to happen. But when this becomes 0.7 volts, at that time you have 0.7 volts over here. So this barrier potential is overcome, that is now electrons can move from the N-type semiconductor to the P-type semiconductor, and as you keep increasing the voltage, the number of electrons that move will keep increasing and therefore the current that I get will also increase. This creates something known as the VI characteristic. So if I have voltage on the x-axis and current on the y-axis till 0.6 volts, I am not getting any current. But after that, once it crosses 0.7, as voltage increases, the current increases. And this voltage that you have right here will be known as the cut-in voltage for a diode, which for silicon diode is somewhere around 0.7 volts, and for germanium diode the cut-in voltage is somewhere around 0.3 volts. This what has happened right now, and I have got this current, is known as the forward biased condition. So this is exactly what has happened before, that is in the zero biased PN junction. Okay, what is shown over here, built-in potential is 0.3 volts to 0.7 volts, that is for germanium and for silicon. When I make my system forward biased, this is what it looks like. So in the forward biased, a diode can be replaced by this, that is a diode can be replaced by a short circuit in forward bias. And this is what my graph looks like. I have voltage on the x-axis, current on the y-axis. Till 0.6 volts I am getting minimum amount of current, which is almost invisible, and then after 0.7 volts I start getting current. Current increases as the voltage increases. This voltage at which it happens is known either as the knee voltage or the cut-in voltage. What happens in reverse bias? Now if you look at what is shown over here, what exactly is happening is, if this is my PN junction diode and this is the depletion layer that was already formed, since it is reverse bias, I connect a negative here, a positive here. So because of which you have positive here and negative here. What is going to happen now is, this positive that is over here is going to start attracting electrons towards it, because of which this depletion region keeps increasing. It happens on both the sides. So since this width of the depletion region has increased, electrons are not going from the N side to the P side. So I am not getting any current. Okay, so I have increased the voltage. This is my current. Now the reason I'm drawing this in the third quadrant is, if I consider the voltage to be positive for a forward bias, then voltage will be negative for reverse bias. If voltage is negative, current will also be negative. Therefore, I have shifted from the first quadrant to the third quadrant. I am continuously increasing voltage. I am not getting any current. Okay. Now this is equivalent to, suppose I have a dam over here. and the water on this side is continuously increasing. It keeps increasing. It's raining really heavy. This water level is continuously increasing. The force with which it is hitting the dam is continuously increasing. What will happen at some point? At some point, this dam is going to break. And what happens when the dam breaks? All of this water is going to pour out. As I keep increasing this voltage over here, at some point this barrier or this depletion region is going to break. And what will happen when this depletion region breaks? All the electrons that are in the n-type semiconductor will flow this side. And since there is no depletion region, just like when a dam is broken, there is nothing you can do to stop the water. Similarly, when this depletion region is broken, there is nothing that you can do to stop the electrons. So this waveform that you get, instead of being something like this, is something like this. That is, it is very steep in nature. We have basically two types of breakdowns, avalanche breakdown and Zener breakdown. But this word avalanche comes from the English word avalanche. So that is when there is a snow avalanche or there is a landfall, there is nothing you can do to stop it. So the current is going to continuously flow till my diode burns out. So for reverse bias, normally we say that my switch is open. So this is a common question that is asked, can I use diode as a switch? So yes, you can definitely use diode as a switch. In forward bias, it acts as a closed switch. And when it is in reverse bias, my diode acts as a open switch. Diode is a device that is going to allow current to flow in only one direction. So this is the graph that you get for reverse bias. If you look at the complete graph or the complete system, this is the way you denote it in the form of a block diagram. This is the symbol of a diode, anode and cathode. Anode is the P side, cathode is the N side. When you are holding a diode in your hand, you need to verify how to figure out which one is the anode and which is the cathode. So that is something that you can go online and search, but this is what the characteristics look like. Very, very important for you to remember the characteristic. Another thing that I want you to see is on the y-axis, positive current is mentioned in milliamperes, negative current is mentioned in microamperes. Now this is a summary where you can just pause the video and read it for yourself. This is everything that we have studied in diode till now. And this is the final summary. So this is a question that you should be questioning. What happens exactly when I have an ideal diode and what happens when you have a real diode? So basically, if it is an ideal diode, it will not have that barrier potential, and if it is a real diode, it will have a barrier potential of 0.7 volts. This is something that I need you all to remember for when we are going to study clippers, because when we are studying clippers using diode, we are going to do it both using an ideal diode and a practical diode. So when practical diode comes into the question, this 0.7 volts for silicon or 0.3 volts for germanium will be included. This is all that you need to know for the basic functioning of a diode. So the next module or the next session that we start will be on clippers.